morning, everyone. It is Saturday in New York City. It's very, very cold. But anyway, that's fine. It's winter. So, by the way, welcome to another episode of Therapy Talk, where we talk about all things mental health. You're probably noticing that I'm not in my office where I usually have my videos, because today I will be interviewing a very good friend of mine. He was very kind and generous enough to share his mental health journey with all of us. So I am on my way to his apartment to chat with him. All right, so let's go. And here we are. We have our special guest, my friend Brian. Hi, Brian.
Hi.
Thanks for having me.
Absolutely.
Ready to chat?
I am, right. Absolutely.
Let's go.
Okay.
Hi, everyone. So here we are with our special guest, my dear friend Brian. Thank you very much, Brian, for having me in your lovely home.
Absolutely. Thank you for asking me. I'm glad to have the opportunity to share my story, and hopefully it helps.
I hope so too. I mean, I always say to a lot of my clients and a lot of people around me that there's still a stigma around mental health. So to see a face and a voice of someone who's experiencing mental health illness, which a lot of people do experience right now, I think it's important to send that message and be able to destigmatize. And that's my goal for interviewing you and many other people, around the city.
Yeah.
So thanks for agreeing to this.
Absolutely.
I talk to a lot of my clients about mental health and their journeys in mental health. And one of the things I've always found is that there's no standard story behind mental health, someone's mental health journey. So I've always been curious about, for you, especially since you're my dear friend, what has been your journey like? When did it all start for you? And, when did you feel like, there's just, something's not quite right?
It's a good question. Looking back, I think there were times in high school that I remember having some conversations with my mom about how I was feeling and what I was dealing with in life. I actually remember in my, I think it was my junior year, it might have been my senior year, some of the poems that I wrote for English were pretty dark. So I don't know if that was teenage angst or if that was something that was more deeper, more deep. But that's the first time I remember having a tough time. But I was still able to function and get through life. It happened. There was another time in college that I remember where something happened at work, and my work environment became a tough place to be. I loved where I worked, and that was where my friends, my community, and it became a tough time. So I remember that period. I remember sleeping a lot.
Mm-hmm. This was in college.
This was in college, yeah. So I remember that time as well. And I think then, but the first time I really remember it being an event that I needed to ask for help was when I made a move from Orlando to New York City.
Okay.
And I've said it in different ways over the years, but basically I just fell apart. I woke up every day crying. I would cry, randomly at any given moment during the course of the day. And that started before I made the move as intense anxiety, and then became an intense depression.
If you don't mind me asking, how long ago was that?
Wow. So that would be, that was summer of 2004. So I guess it was almost 16 years ago, was when I made, it was in June of that year that I made the decision to make the move. I had a career opportunity, and I was very excited about moving to New York, the New York City area. And it was an opportunity for me to work in another area of HR, which is the field I work in. So it was a career opportunity, and it was a life opportunity. So I was super excited. And then as I had about 2 months lead time before the move was going to be an actual real event. And as the date approached, my anxiety just became so significant. It was crippling at moments. I remember spinning and spinning and spinning. And the people who love me, like listening to me share the same story or the same fears over and over and over. It was a cycle I couldn't stop. So that's when a doctor prescribed an anti-anxiety medication to help me manage that. And then, like I said, when I got to New York, then the depression just really hit hard.
All right, so 2004 rolls in. Do you think, if you can look back, were there any kind of triggers or stressors or maybe some contributing factors to you feeling, like you said, so anxious that you were spinning? Any life events or personal experiences or anything like that?
Yeah, well, I think there were a few aspects to that move and where my life was at that time that came together in perhaps we might call it a perfect storm. Around the same time, I made the decision to take the opportunity in the New York City, the career opportunity in the New York City area. I'd also met a guy who I'd known from afar for most of my time in Orlando, and we finally met in person and very quickly fell for each other. And he lives in Orlando, so and so part of it was this. I don't know if we had actually fallen in love. It had only been a couple months, but it was definitely an intense connection. And so leaving that behind was tough for me after trying to find someone that I felt that way about for several years. The other part of it, I think I'm very fortunate that I'm incredibly close to my family, my mom, my dad, who are still together, and my sister, and they lived in Tampa. So when we all lived together in Tampa for 9 years, and then I moved to Orlando where I lived for 7 years, but they were still just a little over an hour away in Tampa. So this was going to be the first time in my life that I was moving really away from my family. So I think that was part of it as well. It was one of those, and looking back, it was one of the best life decisions I've ever made, but it was also really hard. So, leaving familiarity, leaving family, leaving a relationship, there were just a lot of I think mitigating factors.
There's a lot of changes. There's a lot of life transitions, and I think that I'm sure a lot of you out there can definitely relate to when you make those life changes. Those are not easy. They can be very stressful. It can definitely contribute to us feeling, certain ways, and in your case, anxious and depressed. That can be very, very challenging. You mentioned family. How much of what you were going through did they know?
I don't know if at that time I was really sharing it with my family in a truly open way. While we're really close, I don't think I had the words at that time, and there's also I think just the desire to look like it's all okay, even with my family. So did they know? Yes, but more so because they pay attention rather than I was saying, hey, here's what I'm dealing with. But I remember one of the first weekends that I was up here in the New York City area, my mom had flown up and she was helping me move into my new apartment. And at that point, I wasn't out to my parents yet either. My sister knew, but my parents didn't. And my mom could tell I was struggling because I would cry randomly. And finally, and part of what I was dealing with was I hadn't told her that I was gay, and I hadn't told her about this guy that I had fallen for. And so I just broke down in tears at one moment and shared the whole story with her. And so I think part of what I was struggling with in that particular moment was I wanted to tell her the whole story, but I couldn't, and so that was my own sort of internal battle as well. So they knew, but still only on the level that I was willing to let them in.
Was there any particular reason why you felt that you were not ready to talk about what you were going through back then to your family?
I don't know if I don't know if I understood it.
Okay.
I think as part of it, I've now been managing my experiences with anxiety and depression for quite some time now. It's at least been 15 plus years, and during that time I've had periods of highs and lows, and I've had periods to learn from others and to share my experience and to hear from others and their experiences. And so my comfort level in talking about it, both from an intellectual perspective and an emotional perspective, it's much easier today.
That's true.
But I don't think I understood it on any of those levels particularly when it really hit me, because it just, everything in life was going okay.
Yeah, back then, how did you understand, or what did you know about mental health?
I don't know if I knew all that much.
Okay.
I had gone to therapy with a psychotherapist a couple times prior to that, and I think that was more around dealing with just life and dealing with the experiences of coming out, and understanding me and my identity. But I don't think nothing with that therapist at that point in life. I'm not sure I was even as open about in those sessions with that therapist, and that I could have been. And I've had the fortune to have therapy relationships where I've learned a lot from those experiences. So I think I was still just coming to terms with my identity, so it was a time where I think it was all really new to me, and asking for help was probably, and it's still something I struggle with today, of asking for help. But asking for help was, I didn't understand what I was even asking for help about.
Yeah.
Like I knew I didn't feel right, but I didn't know a lot about it to understand what was happening.
So at what point did you say, you know what, it's time to ask for help?
Well, probably when I was encouraged by people in my life.
Okay. It's good to have that support, by the way.
Yes, absolutely. Because I'm trying to think of, and in those early days, when I was asking for help from a medical professional, I was asking for help from a primary care physician, and I am no expert in medical diagnosis, but what I've learned since then, and what I suggest to others now, is if you are going to seek the support of medication, is to work with a psychiatrist, someone who's an expert on that medication. I fortunately had a good doctor who's a primary care physician who knew enough, who got me the right medication at that point in time. I don't remember specifically, but I'm fairly confident it was because someone encouraged me.
Okay.
And it was probably my dear friend Melinda, because she was the person I called, the poor Melinda, but I called her probably every day crying. But she's also the person who encouraged me and reminded me of what I was excited about. So I presume she probably encouraged me to talk to my doctor, but she also reminded me that one of the things I wanted to do was to join the New York City Gay Men's Chorus. And so I remember, and she and I still talk about it today, we're still close friends, that we had one phone call, and she said, remember you wanted to join the chorus? When we hang up, I want you to go online. I want you to look up how to audition for the chorus.
Okay.
And I auditioned like that night or the next night, and I was accepted. And so like that was a big moment for me. Not only did I have to seek help professionally, but I also had to take steps that were going to be healthy for me personally. And so I joined the chorus, and that chorus gave me a family and a community in a new area, and made a huge difference in my life at that time.
And I think you raised another important point, is that, and I always say this to all my clients and my friends, even my family, is that sometimes when it comes to mental health, it's not just about taking a pill or going to therapy. It's about doing other things around, in your life. In your case, you joined the New York City Gay Men's Chorus, something that, an activity that you like to do, something that you're good at, although I haven't heard you sing.
I won't sing for you. Yeah, it's okay.
That's okay. I think our audience would love that, right? And also, you surrounded yourself with good people. And I think that's very important as well, because for anyone who's struggling with a mental health illness, having support around them is very, very crucial.
Well, and one of the challenges, and it's still even a challenge for me, is with mental health conditions is, and what part of why the stigma exists is we can't see it.
Yeah,
if someone has a broken arm or their ankle's in a cast, we can see that
very visible evidence.
Something's happening. Yeah. But with mental health, we have trouble understanding it because we can't see it.
Exactly. As a therapist, I'm always curious about your experiences getting treatment. Mm-hmm. So how was that for you? What was that like for you to, I don't know if you made the call to the doctor or you logged in and, on a portal, but for you to finally seek treatment, what was that experience like for you?
At the beginning, this is partly me trying to sort of think back and remember that the how I felt is more the memories that are easier to access than it is what were the moments that I was asking for help. But I remember, and this is a conversation I have shared with many others since then, of one of those first doctors saying, if you broke your foot or you broke your ankle or broke your leg, you would go to the doctor and you would ask for help, and you would get maybe a cast, and you might be on crutches, and doing the same things for if you're not feeling like yourself mentally is the same journey, right? And you can you can have a crutch. And that's okay while you're healing, and they encourage. I remember the encouragement of the medication combined with the psychotherapy to hopefully get off the crutch. Mm-hmm. So that's the way I try to think about it now, and I remember that as part of it back then. I think it was scary. It's again, if you don't understand it and you don't know what you need to ask for help, but you don't know exactly what you're asking for help for. Mm-hmm. And my experience with the medications it wasn't like even a cast. If I'm dealing with something like a cast is visible and tangible, I don't feel what the medicine's doing necessarily. Yeah. I just know that I'm starting to feel better, but it doesn't have the same sort of cause and effect relationship that other things might have. So I think I've had to sort of take a leap of faith at those moments along the journey. One thing that's been, I don't know if it's unique for me, but one of my experiences, I'll say, is I have worked with my psychiatrist over the years to try to go off the medications, or really to think about it as a crutch, and then go off of it and live life without that support. And there have been times where I've had some sort of anti-anxiety medication to take ad hoc where I needed it, sometimes where I've also taken it more on a frequent basis. So there's been lots of iterations over the course of time. Unfortunately, what I've discovered is when a major life event occurs that sort of knocks me off kilter, how I fall into the depths of depression it's so tough that we've agreed that I need to have a constant safety net. Okay. So I take an antidepressant consistently now, and I have for many years.
May I ask, which one do you take right now?
I take Prestige now.
Prestige, and what milligram?
100 milligram. Yeah.
And once a day?
Once a day.
Once a day. Okay. Yep. And how long have you been on Prestige?
Wow. I think I've probably been taking it for close to a decade now.
Okay.
Yeah, it's been a while. I've gone between 50 and 100. 100 is the level I typically take when I'm going through some life changes, and 50 is usually the safety net level. And I've been with life in the last few years. I've moved a couple times, and so it's just been sort of like I'm waiting for life to stabilize. I'm not sure that that's the way my life's going to work anymore. Okay. But 50 would be the level that I would be on for the safety net level.
And can I ask, what is your current diagnosis?
The only official diagnosis I remember having is generalized anxiety disorder. Okay. I'm not leveraging or using an anti-anxiety medication today. I've also done, over the years, a lot of work on sort of, as you mentioned a few minutes ago, of there's other things and other choices we can take. So would I consider myself someone who is committed to meditation? I think that would be a little bit of a stretch. Okay. But I do meditate on occasion.
That's very helpful.
It's super helpful. Yeah. What I am more practiced about is gratitude and whether I'm writing it out to someone, or whether I'm sharing it with a friend, or whether whether I'm saying it to myself, I do spend, and actually just even in moments of anxiety, I try to take myself back to, I'm okay right now, like just sort of centering, which is about one of the meditative techniques of just like, let's be clear about where I am right now and just be, and then I try to focus on being grateful for whatever is in that moment. So those are techniques that I've used, which have helped me prevent, I would say, maybe the anxiety from becoming the overpowering force, and allow me to stay centered and not necessarily need to lean on medication. I don't think there's anything wrong with medication. I encourage it, but I like the fact that I've found other techniques that have helped keep me centered.
And I think that's very important. And for me as a mental health provider, one of the things that I always advocate is that people learn different kinds of coping skills. And like I said, and like you said too, it's not enough to be on meds, because like you said, it's like a crutch. So there will be situations where you will have to be on it for a period of time, and that's okay. And that's going to be between obviously you and your psychiatrist on what will be best for you, but also learning different coping skills, like you're mentioning about gratitude, meditation, a lot of mindfulness is what we call that. And if you guys have seen my other videos, I did a vlog on gratefulness or gratitude technique, being GLAD, G-L-A-D. So that's G is that you identify something that you're grateful for. L is something that you learned. A is something you accomplished. And D is something of delight that you found or experienced during the day. And a lot of my clients do this on a daily basis, maybe in the morning or before they go to bed. Some people do it on a weekly basis. So whatever really works. But I'm glad you mentioned that. I think gratefulness or gratitude really is a good way, one good coping skill to use, both for anxiety and depression. So do you go to therapy now? Or do you just focus on the meds and coping skills that you've learned?
I don't currently go to a therapist for therapy, so I guess the answer is no to that.
Okay.
But I have someone I talk to on a regular basis, so I have more of my community of people that I reach out to. So I found other ways to have support in my life, and I've thought about are there times I want to go back to therapy in a more formal way, but for now, no, I'm not going to therapy.
The impression I'm getting from you, Brian, is that you are very open about your mental health journey.
Yes, there are choices that I make about how I share my story, and those are choices I'm comfortable with, and and I've grown comfortable with. Some people will be okay hearing my story. Some people will have their own perspectives on life, and those are their choices.
Yeah.
I focus on what I can control.
Exactly.
And I choose to share my story, partly because I'm a big believer in secrets have power, and I don't want this to have power over me. I want it to be part of my life experience, and there's nothing to be ashamed of. It's just it's part of life. Part of it is also I've chosen to live a life where I use my story and my life experiences to help others, and hopefully help others feel okay with their life experiences in certain situations. And so I share about my experience as a gay man. I share about my experience dealing with depression and anxiety. I share about my experiences with being an HIV positive individual, and that means I've released control of those.
Yes.
Because I put them out in the world.
Yeah.
There are people who love me who are not as comfortable with me putting those messages out in the world, but only because they want to protect me. And understand that there are stigmas out there. But the only way that we're going to overcome those stigmas is if we have these conversations.
Exactly.
But that's not they don't have to make that choice. This is my choice to make. And I love that they love me.
We love you.
Thank you. But I choose to share my story so I can help others.
Yeah, and I think that's very important. And I think what you're doing is great. You're regardless if you're very open or not so open, the fact that you're open to talk about your mental health journey, I think is very important to you individually, but also for a lot of people who are, listening and watching this video, and for everyone else who's going through a mental health journey. So I really appreciate you being here today. Do you have any message for everyone out there who either people that are going through a mental health journey of their own, or people who are just getting to know more about mental health right now? What do you want to say to people?
It's a great question. I think there are a few things that I'd share. The first is that it's okay to ask for help. That's probably the biggest one.
Yes.
And ask for help from people you trust. Ask for help from a doctor and a medical professional. Asking for help, I think, is key and essential. I think the other message I would share, and we've covered this one as well, which is it's okay to feel how you feel, and sometimes our feelings become overwhelming, and that's okay too. It just means we're just human.
Your feelings are valid. Your feelings are valid.
Yes,
so that's important.
And I think going back to why I think there may be times where I waited too long to ask for help because I didn't believe that what I was feeling was valid. I would say I shouldn't feel this way, but the reality is I do, and that's okay. So I think those two really go together. It's okay to be where you are, and if you need help, just ask for it.
Yeah, and you are getting the help that you need, that works for you, and I'm hoping that you all, if you're experiencing any kind of mental health issue or illness, there's always help out there. There are a lot of services out there. I hope in your community, if there are not, there's a lot of resources online that will be very helpful for you. But like you said, we all have different journeys. This is your journey, that's your journey. And we all respect and love you all for that. So Brian, any final words for me, for our audience, anything that you'd like to say?
I think the most important thing that I would say is you're not alone. You have friends, you have loved ones, you have medical professionals, so there's always someone there that will care about you and help you. So just remember you're not alone. That's
a very important message to everyone to hear. You are definitely not alone. So Brian, thank you so much for allowing me in your home today and chatting with me about your mental health journey.
Absolutely, thank you for asking. I'm glad I could be here.
Yes, thank you so much. And for all of you who are just new to my channel, please subscribe to my channel. And also for everyone else, I hope that you learn a lot from this video. Please make sure that you give this video a like. And also please share this video to all of your friends and families because I'm sure a lot of them can definitely learn from this video, from Brian's story. And if you have any questions, any comments, any stories of your own, please make sure to comment down below. All right. So again, thanks for watching this video. And as I always say to everyone at the end of my videos, I hope that you all have a happy mental health day. Take care, and I'll see you next time.
Bye.
Thank you, Brian.
Thank you, Lloyd.